Hi there, Eliana. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Pamela?
I'm good.
I know.
So, Eliana and I are here today to talk about how to get published from the point of view of an editor. I think we both have experience on both sides. We were just talking before this started about how excited we are that so many people registered for this workshop because we know that you are super, super busy and it's really hard when you're producing beautiful events to also think about the marketing of those events to get more events. But this is the first step, like signing up for it and then actually showing up is the first step towards this.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting time. I think we're going back to now we've done all these beautiful events. Where do they land? It just doesn't stay with just one post on social media and forget about it and on to the next. So
That's right. You have to leverage it.
yeah.
So that's what we are here to talk about today. A few housekeeping things before we get started. If you wouldn't mind, just like post in the chat, hi, and where you're watching from. Also make sure when you are posting in the chat, you can put questions there that you click so that it's everybody, so that everyone can see the questions that are being asked and the comments that are being made and can be engaged with it. I'm going to kick it off to you, Eliana, first, to just tell us a little bit about yourself and the B Collective.
Yeah. Well, again, first of all, PartySlate, thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor to sit here with you guys and talk because I feel like every time we get together, it's a party. So, right, literally. I am Eliana Baucicault with the B Collective as well as LEB Events. I have been in this industry for 15 years, not dating myself, but I am a lover of all things weddings, special events. From the love I had from the planning side of things, I went ahead and I've released the B Collective magazine, which is about 5 years old. We are a yearly print publication that prints about 60% weddings, 40% other. So everything that's a celebration usually hits our pages. The magazine primarily focuses on people of color. Just because there was a need in the market at the time when we were created, because as a bride or as a celebrant, you never went in the stands when newsstands were a thing. It's going to come back. I have to have faith that that's going to happen, but you wouldn't go on a newsstand and be able to see yourself represented, and if it was far and few in between in the pages. So I've sought out ever since then to change that.
I love that. Have you, in addition to your publication, have you seen more attention?
Oh yeah,
better coverage across media.
Yeah, things have definitely changed when we had the whole, Black Lives Matter movement, and we had tons of webinars because we were all home and being able to go ahead and live that. I think a lot of it wasn't necessarily malicious. It was just not thinking about it,
Right,
So
an oversight, kind of.
An oversight, right, exactly. So once it's brought to the attention, there's definitely a conscious effort. I mean, you can definitely see when it's forced or not because it didn't live past a couple months later versus the hype.
Right. If it's just performative.
Yeah, very performative. So, but it has changed the landscape, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. I mean, we have a Black Ariel now, right? So it's a beautiful time.
These are good days.
Yes, exactly.
It's so true. All right. Well, so I'm Pamela Rothbard. I'm the director of editorial for PartySlate. And I have only been in this industry 5.5 years or so. Before that, I was a freelance writer for magazines. So I kind of come at this topic from both sides, now being an editor, selecting topics for publication, but also having once been the person hustling and trying to think about what an editor might want and timing it correctly and all of those things. So I think both of us have really put our experience into this to make the process a little easier for you, because we've kind of learned the hard way a bit. Oh, all right. Do you want to talk us through our agenda and what we're going to cover?
Sure, I would love to. So we're going to do context setting for media placement, how getting published helps your business, digital and print landscape, what editors are looking for, very important because I think we are both on different sides of the spectrums and we can cross over, but we are very both niche as well. Making a list of target publications, selecting the right events and topics to pitch, editorial and public relations tips and how-tos, very important, and your action plan, because why sit here for an hour if you're not going to do anything about it?
That's exactly right. And I think, we'll have a good plan for you at the end to just be able to set aside a little time. You know, you already have a full-time job. This can't be it, but you do need to actually block out time on your calendar for this kind of activity. Otherwise, like you said, like all of these gorgeous events that you do get posted on your social, maybe get shared a little bit, and then that's where it ends.
Right.
In fact, that brings us to this next slide, and this is about the different kinds of media placements. And I think this slide is really helpful to show what you have control over as an event professional. Paid media is obviously ads or paid placements on websites. Owned media is, you know, your website, your blog, and then shared media is social. And the last one is the one that you really have the least amount of control over. And that's what we're talking about today, which is that earned media of getting a spotlight on your work from someone other than yourself by, you know, a website that has a good domain rating that will bring more eyes to your work. So that's the marketing of PR that goes into earned media. And I know, Eliana, you've talked before about how, you know, shared media, social media is not a substitute
Right.
for this.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about how getting published helps your business. I think probably we all know a lot of this, but it's a good to kind of review it so that you can convince yourself that it's important to block that time out for this kind of focus. It's certainly, you know, all of the things, building your brand awareness and your reputation. It does act as a lead generator. You know, if people see your name enough, suddenly you become the go-to. And lends, I think this one's so interesting, lends authority to speaking engagements. And that kind of is like the snake eating its tail. Like the more you get published, the more you get printed, the more you can leverage that for speaking engagements. And the more speaking you have, you can leverage when you're speaking, when you're reaching out to an editor and say, I recently spoke on this topic, I'd love to contribute to you on it. So I think those two activities kind of go hand in hand. The last thing is getting backlinks from high authority websites, which are really good for SEO. So, you know, your website is great. You should definitely have a blog, but, you know, you will be seen as an authority only if other people link back into you. No, what do you have to add, Eliana? Am I forgetting anything important about why you should get published?
No, you're not forgetting anything important. I think throughout my career, the one thing that I would always say, and I still say it to myself today, you have to be seen in 7 places and 7 different times for your name to become memorable, right? So, you know, as a professional, you think, oh, I don't need all these things because they can see me on Instagram. No, sometimes it's because they saw you on Instagram. They saw you mentioned on PartySlate Brides or wherever it is. And then it's just start clicking to them that I need to go ahead and I need to contact someone. So don't think that as much as you think the vehicle could just be social media, you don't understand the other 6 points that that person may have seen you and why they're contacting you.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I'm wondering, Eliana, just because you run a publication and also a planning business with a huge event coming up that you're very busy on, I wonder, are you still actively submitting to other publications as well for your own marketing efforts, or not really?
Yeah, great question. Not really. I need to be sitting in this class as well, so that's why we're sitting here. And it's not nothing because I own my own publication, because honestly, even with my own publication, I don't advertise my publication. I don't cross over. I think when I went ahead and I said I was going to start the B Collective, I already put in my mind that I was putting a portion of myself out of business in order to do so. So because my thing was that I was going to go ahead and highlight every amazing professional nationally and internationally. So there was no need to fly me all across the country because I'm highlighting someone that's just amazing, that's already local to you. So for me, I feel like I'm really good where I'm at in my planning business. And you can always want better and you can always need better. But for example, since I do a lot of high profile, yes, I do reach out to the knot, or my last celebrity wedding that I had, it was on the cover of Brides magazine. So it's, I'm approaching it a little bit more of, I am also an editor. This is great content. It should be shared in multiple places. So I think we've gone somewhat, and I'm sure we're going to touch this a little bit. We've gone from, of course, we all want the exclusive, right? We all want the exclusive as far as media, and we want that exclusive drop. But we understand in this day and age, we care about the celebrant, but we also care about the advertisers, and we want to make sure that they get the best bang for their buck and all their hard work. So if that means that you're doing something amazing, I'm sure, and you reach out to PartySlate and you reach out to the B Collective, we may co-share that feature and just use different images or different story angles. So there's a plethora of ways to still be out there and be present in different ways. So yes, I am still present because I do have major publications that takes covers, or the wedding we were just talking about. I'm sure that's going to go to Vogue and People and those kind of things, and the B Collective. I take the crumbs. So
I mean, whatever.
There's no crumbs in these events, but
there are no crumbs. These are all really gorgeous.
Yes.
That does kind of, you touched on it a little bit about like print publications and digital publications, about how everyone has different rules about if they're exclusive or exclusive for a period of time, and then you can share it elsewhere. And that has to go into your decisions about where you're going to submit. Often, many digital publications don't require an exclusive, but if they're also part of a print world, then often they do. So the B Collective is not, you don't require exclusivity, is that correct?
We do for sure. So like if you signed off and you said that, hey, this is not being featured anywhere else, and I'm before print and I see that you have been featured somewhere else, yes, I am going to pull it. Absolutely. Okay, but there's exceptions for everything. So like I said, a lot of the high profile ones, so for example, for me, where I've had some events featured in different places, there's a part of storytelling that happens in print that will never die. And I have to be honest about that, even when, because we're selling this to everyone and that's what it is. So there are certain things that are exception to the rule, if that makes sense. I don't think it's unfair because, for example, sometimes we go to digital because it's tomorrow. It can happen tonight if you need to. As the print, it's just not a button. So it's just on a case-by-case basis, but we definitely require majority is exclusive content.
You do. So, I mean, that's important to know up front when you're researching. And, the market is changing all the time. Like print publications have a digital presence and then often eventually move totally to a digital presence. And then some have both. And I know, you're about to publish another print magazine, but now your website needs to be caught up to the content that you're publishing there. So it's a lot of work.
Exactly.
To get both done. I also think that digital publications didn't have the same swagger, but that has all changed. There's still, a feeling of seeing your work in print in a magazine, but honestly, digital publications are easier to share. It's easier to build an audience for that because most people are consuming content on their phones, their computers. So it's often can be a good way to reach a larger audience.
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, okay. I mean, I think this can't be said enough about how your photos and your videos are your marketing collateral. I mean, that's what you have. You can tell the story with words, but ultimately people are going to want to see the images from the event. And what you are doing is providing context and heartfelt moments with your words. But, people want to see the full event from invitation to dance floor to fun exit. We want to experience that once we've heard the story of the people involved in it. So, your best friends should be those photographers and those videographers. And it's a priority to get that content from them and get permission to share it in places like PartySlate, even if it's not for editorial and it's on your profile, getting that posted so that it can be seen and utilized. Also, I think we're seeing, at least for PartySlate events, a much shorter turnaround on those photos. And so it's really fun because we can create a buzz immediately after an event, because 3 days later, we're getting all of the images. And it used to be a week and a half. So I'm seeing some innovation there. I would love for you to talk through this a little bit about, thinking about the timing when you are pitching an editor.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, timing is everything. And like we mentioned earlier, is knowing about what that publication does. So for example, even when it comes onto the B Collective, we are not a seasonal magazine. So we don't have like winter, fall, spring, or we call them collections because they are literally a collection. You're talking about a 10 by 12, massive 300 or 400 page
Yeah.
magazine. It's a coffee table magazine. If it's never existed before, it exists now, so it's one of those things that never leaves the person's coffee table. So I'm very intentional about how I go ahead and publish, because I know it's going to be collection after collection sitting on someone's table. So no matter when you go ahead and you pick up the magazine, it should relate. So that's very important to know what is your focus of who you're presenting to, of what that looks like. But if you are we're going into the fourth quarter, you're starting to think about who's going to go ahead and publish that. So it's not going to come out in the next issue. It's going to come out 2 issues from now. So if that is the case, are you willing to wait for that? Is your client willing to wait for that? We're very much in the Amazon season where everything needs to happen now. So this
Yes.
yeah, kind of like what you were talking about earlier. This is why digital wins. So if you are really in that mind frame, you could have the most gorgeous, most expensive wedding ever. Digital may be what it is for you because you need that instant gratification for your clients. And that's one thing I think we can't forget about as well, because we're sitting down here saying, hey, we're so busy, we're on to the next event because it's done. But it's still your client's one event. And your client's one event wants to still be featured. They want to see all their money and their hard work and their memories celebrated. So I just saw 2 nights ago where the bride was submitting their event, and they clearly like BCC'd a bunch of publications. And in my mind, I'm like, where's the photographer and planner? Like, how did you drop? And it was a gorgeous wedding. But I'm like, how did you drop the ball to bring it back home? Right. So like from a industry perspective, that's what my clients love about me. They know it doesn't end. I'm not on to the next and my check is cleared. No, I want to see it live. I want you to celebrate it all over again when it has gone digital or it has gone in print, because now you're another source for those 40 people that asked me for my card that I can give it to in your event. When you're publishing that you were published, it gives them memories, and now they're going to reach out again. But I
That's
can go
right.
I know we're totally off topic. So sorry, we're totally off topic.
No, that's all such good information. Before, I do want to talk a little bit about this, but before we do, someone had a question in the Q&A that kind of went back to what you were talking about earlier about how to pick the 7 points of contact with the highest authority. I can speak to the authority of a website and the domain authority, and that is information that is public. You can find out the domain authority for any website. And basically what that means is how much does Google trust this website as a reliable arbiter of information. And so, you can go on to SEMrush or Ahrefs, the free version, and put in a site and see how trusted they are and compare it to other publications. And Google looks at things like backlinks to the content, the number of times that people will click on a content and not boomerang right back out because it didn't meet their needs, which means, the titles of the publication lead you to the real information that you want. Like it's a hopper of things that Google throws in and comes out with this rating that allows you to rank higher up in the search. So if you are pitching your work, you ideally want it to be to publications that have, at least digital publications, that have a solid domain rating.
Yeah, and just to add to that, when you're picking your 7 points, I think you have to really think about being strategic about it. I think one thing we often forget about being in the industry is that you go for the top dogs, right? So you're going for the PartySlate, but then you're forgetting about your local resources, whatever your local publications are, or your local, I'm saying newspaper, not a newspaper, but you get the point. You want to go ahead and make sure that you diversify those 7 points. So, kind of go from top to bottom and not say, hey, I'm looking for only the 7 top digital or the 7 top print, you want to divvy that up a little bit. So maybe that's, 2, 2, 2, and then 2 is local, so that you're on the, what's the voyage that everyone, like they have a pretty good rating that they interview everybody because they have everybody's clickbacks. So you
Right,
don't
that's
know
right.
you don't know where your consumer is consuming that information. So I think that's the very first thing to do that homework. Where is your target client or your ideal client, and be realistic of what that ideal client looks like. Where are they getting their information? Are they on TikTok? Are they on PartySlate? Where are they? And then go ahead and say, fine, they're here now, but this is where I want to be, and make sure that you diversify it that way as well.
Right. So you're choosing a diversity of sources. And like you said, you may have one big, beautiful event. And even though there's differing levels of exclusivity, you can choose different angles of the event. You could come to PartySlate and say, the way that the processional happened in this wedding was so unique. I'd love to talk with you about this and other unique processionals I've seen. So, you can pull out a detail and maybe those, few images associated with just the narrow topic that you're pitching can go to this, and then you can give other parts to other publications and really get a lot of good stories and press out of the same event.
I love that. And Pamela, correct me if I'm wrong, on PartySlate, the person can upload their own events, correct?
Yeah. So I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I think, I'm always working to sort of like clarify the difference between editorial on PartySlate and your profile. And both are really important. Like for SEO, our profiles are optimized so that they can be found through Google. And so that's really important. But then we have our best of section, which is like our version of a magazine. And that is very curated. So, your profile would fall under your owned media, that's something that you have total control over, is your PartySlate profile. So you can upload whatever events you want to that. It doesn't count for us as like a publication, but it is a beautiful way to share your work with consumers without, going through a pitching process, which I hope you would additionally do to share that work. But for me, it's easiest if you put that on your PartySlate profile and you put some really good details in there, so that when I'm searching for content, because I'm going to do an article on fall centerpieces, if you've got fall wedding in your title, then that's really helpful for me to be able to find it. So making those titles evocative, so that then we can move it from the owned media over to like the PR side, the earned media.
I love that.
Yes. So for us, we publish every month. We have a rolling editorial calendar that's planned 3 months in advance. And so for us, when it comes to pitching, seasonality really does matter. If you host like an epic, amazing Galentine's Day celebration and you send it to me when you get the photos and zhuzh them up and prepare a pitch in mid-March, I'm not thinking about next Valentine's Day quite yet. So, you're really, when you're working, especially with digital publications, you're looking at the next 3 months. Like, what's the landscape? What is it 6 months out? And then current events, like definitely during the pandemic, we were printing a lot of like what couples are doing, what advice planners have. And so pitching things based on what's going on in the world is like super on topic and makes it easy for us to choose you for publication. All right. For us, I'll be interested to hear how this differs for you. For us, because we don't do as many featured events, like take a single event and feature all the parts of it like you do. Instead, what we do is we'll talk about trends that we're seeing across multiple events and show different ways that was done or produced. We'll pull out unique elements. We might ask that planner for advice for consumers that are looking for good ideas and advice. We will do features on high profile clients, like many of the ones that you work with. We are looking for a mix of like, people stories and event stories. Like our main priority is to really honor the work of all of the event professionals that go into it. Like we are very design focused, and we feel very lucky just to be able to look at all of these amazing events all day long and then to bring them to a bigger audience. So for us, these are the kinds of things that we are looking for. What draws you in when you're looking at a pitch or looking at an event? What's the thing that will hook you?
Yeah, our big thing for me, just because I'm an event designer, so I have to take what I do really, really well and apply it to the next thing that I do. Our
Yeah,
magazine focuses a lot on the details. So a lot on the design, a lot on the decor, for me, the eye buys. So it's a lot less of,
yeah,
that very sweet moment that you probably will print and put it in your home. That's probably not going to hit our publication. So that's why knowing where you're submitting is so key. I've never, not even on from the social side or the print side, I don't print black and white photos. It's a
oh,
very high color, it's a very high punch in your face, very crisp images. So anything that I see like that and that I know can, when you open, and it doesn't mean that it's all high color. So I have a lot of soft features in there as well, but it's still on brand because it definitely still has the level of details that we're looking for. So something that hasn't been done. I mean,
right,
it's not rocket science, right? A wedding isn't a wedding, an event is an event, but just a different twist. We've seen where menus are now pop-ups and the menus on the table are now its own experience and not the basic 5x7
right.
card. So those are things that we're definitely featuring and definitely looking at, or just a color palette done differently. We went through a phase where everything was just black, white, white and gold and blush. That
Yes,
happened for a
yes.
good year and a half and we couldn't take it anymore. And then it's like, okay, you can use color and you can use color tastefully. What does that look like? So those are the things that we're definitely looking at.
Right, is looking for what's different. I mean, I
Yeah.
think you probably feel the same. Like we really do see gorgeous, over the top, insane events, but we are looking for a little something that's different. Like I saw a wedding a few months ago that really kind of stuck with me because the entertainment, they actually put in the center of these massive tables. So people were sitting around for cocktails, and in the middle of the table would be a violinist over here and, celloist over here. And in the center of the tables where people were kind of sitting around. And it was just a different
Love
immersive
that.
way to offer entertainment.
I love it. Might use it. That was great.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Go
think
for
that's
it.
awesome.
All right. So getting to talking about making your target list of publications. I mean, you talked about this we talked about print or digital, mass market or luxury, but even more important, which we don't even have as a bullet on here, but I think it's such a good point, is the looking for those local publications, because often your work is going to come from there.
And not to mention, when you're thinking about local, and I know this hasn't changed, we have to understand that the millennials are not in there. But depending on what market that you're in, the parents are still flipping through those magazines or attending those functions and still having those conversations. And if those parents are still the people that's paying for the wedding, they're saying vendors that they're looking for is going to matter. So don't ever forget that part. I think we're just so like, I feel like our industry is going to be like bell bottoms, right? Like, you've experienced bell bottoms and they're gone. You're thinking 70s, but everything comes back around. So
Everything comes back.
everything comes back around. So the people that are there and you know about it and you can see it and you can think about it. Because I feel like things that we're talking about today and that we can talk about forever is that interns, if you train your interns the right way, or people on your staff the one way, that's like, hey, one day a week, we are going to look and see if there's new publications, B, strengthening our relationship with our existing partners and publications that we're working with. I remember when I first started, I honestly was able to rise so quickly in the market because editors knew if they reached out to me, I'm not so good at this anymore, so bad me, but if they reached out to me about a topic, or they reached out to me about they needed images or they needed something filled out, and I'm sure you go through this, Pamela, where someone can fill out a form and it's not completely filled out because they don't feel like they
Yeah.
have to,
Mhm.
or they get back to you when they want to. So, it's like just being that go-to person for editors will forever give you a placement in an editor's heart, because sometimes you're up against deadlines or you just want to get the best best things that you need. And like you said, you're working on your calendar 3 months out. So these are things that you can definitely just train and say, listen, it's not something that it can just fall by the wayside because you're busy, because as quickly as you're busy and that person that is focusing on it will come and take your spot.
That's exactly right. I mean, I definitely find that I know that there are certain people that I can go to for a quote or advice that I know are going to respond right away. And that holds weight if I'm on a deadline and need to get something published and I would like to have a perspective from a planner. Like, I really value that. I don't judge people negatively for not, but I definitely notice when it's a quick response, it makes me really happy because it makes my job so much easier. We did talk a little bit about exclusivity requirements, and some of this can be a little overwhelming, trying to understand different publications, the seasonality of them or lack of seasonality, the exclusivity requirements of each. I think a spreadsheet is your best friend.
Absolutely.
When you are wrangling all of this information, is just capture and catalog it so that you can very quickly sort it and find what you need. And that's a perfect task for an intern. If you have an intern, they can get school credit or something and really help you get organized on this marketing journey. Okay. So
we do have a question from Ashley, and she's been waiting for a while. So
yeah,
I'm going to read it and then you can answer it. How about that?
Oh, all right. We'll see if I can.
It says, can you speak a little bit about event style and how to match your style of event photography design to the right publication?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think like Eliana, you touched on this a little bit when you said that the aesthetic of your magazine is like bold and colorful, and you're not interested in the black and white. I said for us, we focus a lot on the details. You do also, but we also want to we want to be able to show the story of a whole event. And so we want a wide room shot. We want people having fun. And then we want some zoomed in decor details. So I think the best information you can get is just by familiarizing yourself with the publication. PartySlate is like defiantly anti-DIY. So, we are not going to be writing an article about 12 ways to use mason jars in your centerpieces because it's just not on brand for us. So we are looking for elevated luxury, a little bit over the top, something new and interesting events to publish on our site. Not that DIY is a bad thing, but that's not going to get published for PartySlate. So you're going to, give that somewhere else if there's some element of that to it. And then for us, and I'm sure for you also, like professionally shot is that we don't want any iPhone photos. Like it has to be a composed image by a professional photographer. And also we need all the credits. You talked about not having all the information you need because they don't fully complete the form. That is the hardest thing, having to chase down to find out who was the photographer, who was the designer. Like you just want to make it easy when you finally found a fit for those images that you have, and it's going to be a good fit for this magazine. Then it's the curation of that.
Exactly. I feel like there's so many niche publications, whether it's print or digital, that everything has a home, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think the beauty of what we do as creatives is that you can get a home in several different places, right? So I know me as an event designer, I remember there's a point in my career where I wanted to make sure that I could do everything. I live in Atlanta, I live in the South, and I'm from New York. So you have a city girl in the South. And I remember, half of the industry at the time when I worked with Miss Ashley Scobie here, there was a lot of different, we've done a lot of weddings together. I don't know if you guys know that.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, it's my girl right there. Yeah. Where half of the industry, we kind of was our labor of love days, where it was that quirky kind of really kind of washed out images, mason jars everywhere. And I remembered as a professional, it was very important to me to make sure that I could do that style of wedding, even though it wasn't my expertise, to know that I could. And once I knew that I could, where do I place that? Because I'm not going to submit it to Grace or Mond. So
right.
Going ahead and making sure that you diversify your portfolio, because it will help you go ahead and figure out your signature style and where you ultimately want to be. So now okay, I know that I have all these details of all these grand parties coming up. PartySlate is my place because it's, say you have a bunch of graduations and it's graduation season. Hey, Pamela, here's 4 or 5 graduations for you. Everything's, I've done, or family portraits. I don't know how you really mix that up. I mean, sorry, senior portraits. But if you know that's your soft spot and that's what you really, really love, do some senior portraits that has a table involved. Maybe it's a table to the ode of the new school that they're going to. I mean, I can go on and on with ideas, but I think.
Julie Novak, PartySlate CEO and co-founder, and I always have this discussion around styled shoots. I don't know if you publish styled shoots. So we don't.
Yep.
But the conversation that we always have is, if you're going to go through all of the work to set up this amazing list of vendors to create this gorgeous styled shoot, why not then make it into an event and invite other event professionals for cocktails and shoot that and let people actually enjoy it.
Yep.
So, that's one of the hacks of making it a real event,
right?
With just inviting a few people. What else are we forgetting on here? Oh, do you have permission from the client to use the event? That's really important.
I mean, I believe if your goal is, and I believe everyone that's on this webinar, their goal is to be published, there should be a clause in your contract.
Absolutely.
That literally says, hey, I'm going to be, and you have them sign right in that area, a model release, that's what it's called. You have a model release in your contract that says, we're going after this. I know we're going to curate a beautiful event. Of course, we're going to be tasteful with the images that we pick. We've already kind of spoke to your photographer and know that this is our plan. Do you have any objections? That's a conversation that needs to be had before the event, because what the very last thing you want to do is publish someone that doesn't want to be published. I've had events where my clients are corporate, not corporate, but in government. So they literally could not post that, of their event at all. And it was beautiful, but I knew ahead of time. So I didn't, of course, I still produced the event to its highest quality, but I respected my client because I wanted to have a lifelong relationship with them.
For sure. And I think that's often the same with celebrity clients, is that they've made agreements already with where their events are going to get published. So it may not be as much in your hands as the planner to leverage it for marketing. It's already going to be leveraged out and you'll get your mentions that way. Yep.
And I'm going to give you guys one tip just from a celebrity perspective, because I've had this happen so recently. Like, understand that if it's a celebrity client at all, let's just say if they have a blue check next to their name, don't post it. Like, even if you haven't had that conversation, even if that planner photographer didn't have you sign an NDA, just ask, because you don't want to be that one vendor that ruined it just because you were so excited to post something on your stories. Like, I literally had to walk through and I had to tell my venue to listen, at some point we're going to do phone check. And that means everyone in your kitchen is going to have to put up their phone. Like, that's how far we have to go. So it's before, in my inexperience, I'm just thinking about my vendors, I'm thinking about guests, and you're not thinking about the person that's just serving, that's like had no idea what they were walking into. So
they didn't realize they weren't allowed to capture it and post it. They're so excited about it. Oh, that's such a good point. Oh. We've covered a lot of this already, but making it easy, curating your image selection. It's funny because I think we have different viewpoints on this. I noted that when I get a Dropbox of 500 photos, I can feel a little like deflated, like I've got to go through there and pick the ones that are going to work, and I don't have the bandwidth really to do it. PartySlate's growing so fast and there's so much coming in every day. But you noted that like you actually really appreciate that because you can curate exactly what you want.
Yeah, I used to be, and I will eventually, I think as the B Collective brand grows, I will have no choice, as you are having no choice right now, of having to have a curated selection. But I feel like right now in our industry, we just don't take the time to appreciate what we have, right? So you have 500 images and you're just like pick, because being published, although you want to be published, you don't take it as serious as you should. So you're not giving me 2 variations of a room shot. You're not making sure that, the centerpiece is at its optimal presentation, right? So you're just picking one and just throwing it in there and not realizing, okay, the fork in that image is turned, but the next image it wasn't. you know, you just feel like you've picked one out of the other. So I rather just, for peace of mind, I just kind of go through it. It takes me a little bit longer, but because I'm not focused on people shots, I know when I'm getting to that reception folder, 95% of it's gone because I don't care about the dancing
Right,
shot.
you
I
can
might
just
take
zoom
out
right
one,
through it.
you know, so I have a little tricks that I use in order to get through pretty quickly.
Right. Right. Well, that also brings us to the not all publications require people shots. I'll say for PartySlate, anything that you put on your PartySlate profile is kind of up for grabs. For editorial, you know, by placing it there, you are agreeing that we may feature it in an article. And if you don't want it featured in an article because it's being submitted somewhere else, don't put it up yet until you're able to actually share it. And that goes for people shots too. You know, if you have a client that doesn't mind you sharing the beautiful design of the event, but doesn't necessarily want their kids in it, or, you know, their friends, and they would just prefer that you only share those shots, then you only offer those, you know, only put those on your PartySlate profile with no people. All right. So, oh, example, we have no example. We just have a place for an example here. Even though we both have like so many good.
Yeah, we talked about how to call. That's my fault. That's totally my fault. I remember I was supposed to send that to you. So we kind of talked about the fact that I've had people that they will go ahead and they're thinking about doing a styled shoot. So they've gotten all their vendors in the row. They create a beautiful PDF and it kind of shows me inspiration behind the shoot. If they had the models secured, their spaces of the models, I get to see the vendors so for example, if I know the Scobies are shooting it, I know the style of photography, I know that they pay attention to details, I know it's going to give me the photos that I'm looking for, so I can confidently say before the shoot has taken place, because of how it was presented, 99% sure that it's going to go ahead and hit the magazine. If there's anything that I'm looking for specifically for the issue, because I'm the only one that knows everything else that's being laid out, I can confidently tell them, hey, make sure you really focus on the cake, because I don't feel like I have any cake that's as eccentric as this one is, you know. Right. So there's some beauty in pitching ahead of time. Understand it, give us some time, because we are working on a lot of things. Again, right. Depending on a publication that you're going for, if you need to be published within the next 2 to 3 months because everyone has spent money and need to get some type of return, then print is not your ideal place to go. So go ahead and reach out to PartySlate or wherever else you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Other than that, I think I cannot emphasize the last one enough, that like follow their guidelines and process. And that just goes back to, if they have a form, that's because, and we both have submission forms, and it's just because it makes sure that nothing gets lost. And it also makes sure that we have all the information and can run really quickly. If you send me an email and you give me one image of an event and say, are you interested? Or I frequently will get emails of people saying, hey, I just did this cool event, check out my Instagram to look at it. And now you've put something on my to-do list that I need to now go pull up your Instagram and look at the event. You just want to make it easy and follow the process, answer all the questions, and it'll really up your chances of getting featured.
Yeah, please do not send me to your Instagram, because I will not be doing that.
Right, totally.
I will not be doing that.
So this is just some tips, and some of these I think are really helpful and good. And the most important of which is telling the stories behind these events. You know, we just did an article on alt bashes. Have you heard of alt bashes?
No.
So it's the idea, it's a trending thing. It was on Pinterest's trend report that they did. And it's basically celebrating something that doesn't usually get a party. And so people coming out of COVID have all these things that they want to celebrate. Like, we're having a party because we adopted a puppy, and we're going to have puppy themed cookies, and we're having all of our friends come over with their dogs, and we have, you know, cocktails that have fun names and all. So alt bashes are really big right now. And all of those are story driven, because they're something that holds meaning to a person that they're choosing to celebrate, that we haven't really seen people celebrating that before. People are so eager right now to just gather after not being able to. The other thing that I would touch on this is the finding opportunities to speak. Do you do a lot of that? Speaking on panels and podcasts? I know you've been with us a few times.
Yeah, I do. I used to do it a lot more than I do it now. I'm probably gonna get back in the swing of things. I love just, sharing things that has definitely kind of followed me throughout my career. Definitely
Yeah.
just from, like you said, this is all to make it easy, right? We create a publication so that the consumer can easily see beautiful content as well as amazing vendors. So anything to make our industry stronger by sharing that information is key. So when I started really speaking on circuit was really about my event design. I created a
Mhm.
signature style. I wanted to go ahead and share everybody what my thought process looked like. What does meeting with a client look like for me when I'm talking about event design? Because I have a very unique approach when I do so. So from there, I know I can speak on a variety of topics, going ahead and creating a speaker sheet. My press page was probably one of my biggest selling tools, not only to my clients, but to people that were interested in hearing me speak. So
Oh,
kind of going back
interesting.
to what you were talking about with the spreadsheet, I remember this when Google Docs, dating myself again, but before this, when Google Docs first started, I literally put all the blogs that I wanted to be seen on. Style Me Pretty, Green Wedding Shoes. I put every single, there's a blog section, there was a print section. And every single time I was featured, I just moved it to the next one because it's almost like manifesting, right? So you write it down and
Yeah.
it comes through. So I would just put it down, I'm like, okay. And then it became a little harder because you're now being published. So I was like, okay, I had all the topics and now I have to just drop the blog links on there so that we had a running list, and then saving the covers so that I'm able to put it on my press page. But anytime that I felt down about myself or business or felt like I wasn't doing enough, I'd open my website and just look at my press page.
Look at your
You
press
know?
page. It's
I'm
so
just like, look at my press
affirming.
page.
I love
I'm
it.
like, girl, you've done that. You see what you did?
Yeah, look at what you made happen.
Yeah, so it's so important for you to go through that process. And I don't think that being published, I look at Mindy Weiss, who I absolutely adore. I
Yeah.
literally called her last week and was just like, just thinking of you, friend, because I just haven't heard her voice and I love her Minnie Mouse voice. But to this day, if you could see one of the biggest people in our industry still concentrate on being featured, still concentrate on being
Yeah.
present. I know she does a lot with you guys. I think I just
Mhm.
saw in my inbox where she curated a wedding playlist that Inside Wedding shared. Like, as editors, you have no idea how much we love to be presented with topics. Are you kidding
Yes.
me? I don't have to think about it. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Tell me more, So
It's so true.
it adds to your advertorials. It adds to all these things that it's not sometimes, because you're like, what if I don't have the content? What happened? What if I haven't reached it? It doesn't mean you don't have the knowledge and know-how because you put the time in.
That's
Think
right.
about different ways to be featured as well.
And there's so many opportunities for speaking engagements in this industry. And, before I transitioned into writing, I was in like corporate America, and I have just never seen this level of camaraderie as I see in this industry of people willing to share their knowledge, and all of that builds you up to also be able to get quoted in publications, to show that you're a leader in the industry, makes you a reliable resource for all sorts of editors.
Yep. And we have a question. They said, what is the type of event you mentioned that is on Pinterest for celebrating events not usually celebrated? Is it alt event, ALT? Is that what you're
It's
saying?
alt bashes, ALT bash, alt bash.
Nice.
Yes. And we can actually share, I think we'll send you an email follow-up and we'll put our link to that article so you can kind of dive in and see some alt bashes. It's really, it's like the heartwarming story of the year to me, is just to see people celebrating these like really micro things and just being happy about it.
I love it.
And gathering. I already talked about, like, for your PartySlate profile, like leveraging that for me, making it easy for me to like include you, because if you have Jason and Brian's wedding, I'm never going to be searching for Jason and Brian's wedding, but I would look for fall New York City wedding. I might look for, sunflower wedding. I might there's a whole bunch of things. When I'm writing about corporate, I might look for something with experiential in the title, so you just want to make sure that you're title is evocative when you are using your PartySlate page, and that will help you not just with me, but with consumers who are going to your PartySlate profile because they want to see real examples of your work. And you're already starting to tell the story of an event before they even click into it. So it gets them more engaged right away than it would just having, you know, a couple's name or maybe a company's name for a corporate event. And we always love a good event description, like kind of really giving us some detail. And that's the same thing that you and I are talking about that we want in a pitch. If you are using your PartySlate profile, when you upload to your profile, that is in essence making a pitch. And we do have a submission form, and that's like a cut the line. But anytime you upload to your PartySlate profile, you are in essence submitting it for me to consider for publication. And we look at every event that gets uploaded, and it's a lot.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Yes, it's very busy. Okay, so once you've done all of this work, you've done all the research, you created your spreadsheet, you've done all the outreach, and now you have seen some success and been published. You'd like to think that that's when you're done, but it's not when you're done, because you can continue to build on that momentum by sharing it with all of the event partners, encouraging them to share the article, definitely leveraging all of the things that you own, putting it on your press page, like you said, putting it on your social media, tagging everyone involved. This is your opportunity to make a bigger ripple with the work that you've already done.
Love it.
All right. So this is what a PartySlate feature editorial life cycle looks like. And I think you can mirror this in your own efforts. So for me, I press publish on an editorial feature. We don't walk away from it then. We consider if it's worth sending out for potential PR to another publication. Like, have we spotted something? Are we talking about a trend that we think an even larger publication might be interested in, and we could position ourselves to pitch for that? We include our articles in our newsletters, on our social media, on our best of page, which would be, you know, your press page or your blog. And, you know, we push it out in every way possible. And surprisingly, what we have seen get the most traction in terms of visits back to our articles and back to our site is Pinterest. Like, don't sleep on Pinterest. I know we all love Instagram, but Pinterest, you know, people go there looking for ideas, and you want to lead them to you. So then this is your version of that. You know, again, we'll send you these slides, but this is what you should be, all the ways you should be considering sharing it when you get mentioned. And you know, we've talked about this a lot. I'll give the plug for PartySlate, and then I'll stand back and let you take over. But you know, we have a hand in all of these, because via your profile, that's owned media that you own on PartySlate. We promote your events on shared media and paid media. Like, if you are a member, you get, you know, featured more highly on the website, and then the earned media, the best of page / magazine. So we have we offer a little bit of all of that. And I just say that to say, if you don't have a free profile, just get one. It doesn't cost you anything. It's easy to set up, and it positions you to get more attention on your work. Do you want to talk at all for just a minute? I know we're going to wind down here in just a sec. Do you want to talk at all about whether people should have their own blog in addition to pitching their work out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be as easy as a copy and paste or point towards your feature. I do believe, and again, this is me talking to myself too, guys. You own your blog, you own your website, right? So that's a place where it will never go down. If Instagram goes down today, all your followers, all your content's gone. You know, so it's kind of just like a backup. I think blogging is definitely like a backup. And I believe, you know, during that pandemic, I'm sure people were on the internet all day and getting lost into articles
All day.
You know, God forbid there's a recession, or God forbid someone just wants to disconnect. We're in this realm that we love social media, but we're also being so consumed by it. So people are forcing themselves to just take a step back and not get caught up in that what's happening in every minute, and just taking a step back. So I do believe that you just always have to be ready, so you don't have to get ready. And I feel like your blog is definitely that situation, and you work so hard, and it's a way to definitely celebrate everybody, because not everyone's going to be feature worthy, right? And I know for me, I tell my clients, no matter what, I don't care who you are, because not all of them are celebrities. Know that no matter what, I will feature their event on my Instagram, right? Because I don't want them to think only the best,
I love
the best
that.
is there. Every single person is there, because I feel strongly about maybe not the whole event, because not all events are huge budgets, but there's something in that event that I love so much that I'm willing to shop from
That's
rooftops,
special.
you know? So if that your blog is your opportunity to do so.
That's exactly right. I mean, I would encourage everyone to have a blog. It is not a substitute for the earned media, but it is a place that a consumer, having seen you in those 7 touch points, and now they've landed on your website, they are going to be the ones that look at your blog. And depending on the topic that you write about, if you write about something that's niche enough, you can also get views straight from Google. You know, if you're talking about a topic that not a lot of people have talked about yet, then you have the opportunity to be seen highly on Google and for people to find you that way. So I would encourage you to have your own blog as well to tell those stories.
And I'm sure freelance editors are still Googling, right? So you don't know who's going to Google and hit your blog and say, oh my God, this is a similar topic, or I love how you wrote about this topic. What's your input on this? So if your goal right now that you're focusing on for the next 6 months, because I'm very big of small increment goals, is to, you know, speak more, or to have more features that's not necessarily just an event, but featured on you being an expert, then you definitely want to hit your blog as much as possible.
Totally. And you actually brought us to our ending in talking about, you know, setting aside that time and having monthly, quarterly goals about what you're going to do. So we've kind of given you an action plan here. And I would encourage you today, right when you get off of this, to block an hour next week on your schedule, you know, midweek, early week, whenever you are not in a frenzy because of the upcoming event in the next 2 days, and spend 1 hour and start thinking about, just do a brainstorm of like, what are the topics that you could give a quote about? What are the events that you're excited to share, and what about them is exciting? Start researching those reporters, the bloggers, the publications. Start getting your photos and stuff. You know, next week when you have that hour, you're not likely going to be submitting things already. You're going to be laying the groundwork, and maybe for a few weeks you'll lay that groundwork, but then it's going to make it a lot easier once you have a system to just continuously submit your work out to publications. So you have to start somewhere. So that next step is submitting your work for editorial consideration. And again, putting that time on your schedule to devote to this. I beg of you, don't overload a single editor with too many submissions. Like, you're now having this on your list, and so you're very excited, but sending the same editor 12 events is going to be really overwhelming and won't give any event the amount of spotlight that it probably should have in the eyes of that editor. And then, you know, when you get those mentions, now you got to promote them and bring it full circle to get as much out of it as you can.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. How can we help? We can review your sample editorial pitch, obviously help you create a profile, and we will share with you in the email the PartySlate submission form as well as the B Collective submission form links, so that you can find those for when you are ready to submit. Any final words of encouragement to people who are looking at starting this daunting task or doing it better?
Just do it. Literally, you just
Thank you, Nike.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're in this day and age where even if you don't have an intern, you have so much virtual assistant help that you can have. Or I know at some point I use things like Fancy Hands. I don't know if you know what Fancy Hands are.
I have not heard of it, no.
Fancy Hands literally is a service that you can pay like $15 a month and you get 5 tasks. It can be anything. So you
Oh.
literally can just go on there and put in a request and say, hey, here's all these publications. Please send me back their editorial process, the contact information, the name of the person in charge of everything. And it's done for you.
How cool. I've never heard of that. I love that
You can literally
outsourcing.
tell them to schedule you a U-Haul. Like they could do anything. They could call clients back, they could do anything. But in this day and age, I would just literally have them create that spreadsheet for me. Whether you have time or not, you could go ahead and you outsource. And this is the easiest and cheapest way that you can outsource for as little as $15.
Yeah.
$15 and net you back $5,000 at minimum.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's amazing. All right. Well, we're going to end on the just do it note, and we have come to the end of our time. I really love talking to you. Thanks so much for giving us your time again. We always love to connect with you.
Thank you for having me anytime. And I hope to be expect soon.
Well, don't worry.
I think we have one more quick question that just came in.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Yeah. It says, what advice do you have for those that are not photographers or videographers? How can we submit pictures when we might not get all the images? That's a great question, and I can answer you that from that planning perspective. I believe sometimes, I don't know what you do. I don't know, and I'd love for you to just kind of put in what you do, whether you're a cake baker and stuff like that. Reach out. I would reach out to that planner, reach out to that photographer and say, hey, I just want really, can I get 1 or 2 images? Invest in a really good iPhone. iPhones are really, really, as long as you know your lighting and stuff like that, you can get an image, maybe not a publishable image from a print perspective, but if the backgrounds are clean and you're very particular about what that looks like, a lot of cakes are designed in front of something beautiful. So I'm sure if you sent it to Pamela, the resolution would be good enough if it's a damn near exact professional photo that you can go ahead and showcase. But it might be just a series of things where you're zoomed into the cake and showing a detail in the cake and talking about how the design came from the grandmother's gown or something like that. So there's so many ways that you could definitely be able to submit. Worst case scenario, and Ashley might kill me about this, but if you are on an event and you just know you're working with a photographer that just refuses to give you your images, it's before the event time, you have someone come with you when you're delivering, take a picture of said item. If you are a stationary person, you go ahead and you have that suite, you give all your suites to a photographer to shoot them for you. It doesn't have to be on event site. I mean, I can go on and on. It just really,
that's really great advice. I've seen that even at PartySlate events, even though we always have a professional photographer, sometimes like a caterer will do an installation and they want to make sure that every angle and little detail is caught, and they'll bring in a photographer for 30 minutes just to kind of really capture every bit of it so that they have that collateral material. So I think that's really good advice and follow up. Like it's not easy because everyone's so busy, but connecting with that planner and photographer pretty regularly. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And, we look forward to seeing your pitches.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Have a great day.